Hey guys, welcome to the video. So I just uploaded the final part of DSW New Year's Resurrection to Instagram, and I just wanted to do a little recap on what my thoughts were on the whole experience of the first ever DSW Instagram Fed show. So, first of all, it took way too long. Like, I spent way too much time on it. That was basically just not filming it regularly enough, not getting it done quick enough. It's New Year's Resurrection, and it's now late March, and it's only just finally finished. On that note, I am going to have to change the pay-per-view name in the YouTube version, which will be uploaded in, at some stage soon, because I've realised that when you track where the canon would be in DSW, it wouldn't have been New Year when this came out. So we're just going to call it the Resurrection, but that's a finicky detail that doesn't really matter right now. So the whole point of it was to do a show that contributed to the DSW canon and the sort of reboot and revival of it. That, it wasn't a full-on match, it wasn't fully animated, it wasn't even fully pick-fed, it was just highlights and all that kind of stuff. Now, not only did I not really film it regularly enough and, get it done quick enough, really, but I also dragged it out too much because, if you go back and look at the first match, and indeed if you look at Aldis versus Moxley even more so, it was more to show highlights and like paused moves and stuff like that, rather than to show sequences and like a proper pick fed kind of thing, which is sort of what I kept sort of slipping into. And I'd then be like, right, the next match needs to be shorter and I need to try not to think of that. But then the match would end up being longer anyway because it was higher up on the card and so on and so forth. So the first two things we've got there is, if we're going to stick with this Instagram fed stuff, we need to do it more regularly, and we need to stick with the idea of it being just highlights and very quick post moves and stuff like that. The captions were then introduced because I felt like sometimes it wasn't clear what was meant to be going on, and a little bit of narration wouldn't hurt. And I think that that amplified it a bit. But at the end of the day, again, I think I fell into the thing of sort of annotating everything and saying what everything was going on, rather than just including the important bits. So that's something I try and stay clear of in the future as well. I think in terms of actually making it, I quite enjoyed it. I remember when I did the John Morrison Zack Ryder match, and I just kept looking back at it and thinking, like, this was fun. I really enjoyed this one. And I think there was like some very good creativity in there. The storyline, a little inside a DSW secret for you, the storyline that turns up at the end of the main event was completely improvised. That I had no prior plans for that, and it just popped into my head, and that's what we went with in the end. So that's going to skew the future of DSW in a few ways, and that's that's going to be something to pursue through. I think my favorite thing was probably the Iron Sheik versus Ultimate Warrior. I got bored filming that match, and honestly, I filmed a clean submission victory, which you can see. And like, there is a joke about that in the end of that match. And then, I went to bed that night and I was like, that's stupid. I can't do that. Like, I don't want to do a clean submission victory on the Ultimate Warrior. As much as I don't care about that, for some reason, it felt like it mattered. So we had the alternate thing where Shiki basically beats him up on the outside, camel clutch, and then has him counted out. I thought that was quite clever. It sort of popped into my head, like how I would do stuff like that on video games, like try and get my opponent counted out by putting them through the announce table or something like that, rather than like actually trying to beat them properly. So I thought that was pretty good. I thought that was a good heel tactic, because obviously we didn't want Shiki to win particularly cleanly, and I thought that was a good way to do that. I thought it was very creative. I was quite disappointed that that post didn't get a lot of likes. It was probably one of the lowest liked parts of the entire show. And I know that likes on Instagram don't necessarily translate to quality of content. They more translate to amount of people that were exposed to it via the algorithm. But I just think it's a shame that more people didn't see it, because I think that was a pretty interesting ending. But at the end of the day, the people that are interested can seek that out and look that up and, see it in their own time. That being said, I enjoyed this, and I think I can bash myself about how long it's taken to finish it, but not only did it end up being a lot longer than I probably originally planned it to be, but the matches were probably a lot longer as well because of those other factors. I mean, the last match ended up being 9 parts long, And that brings me on to the next thing that slowed it down, and definitely is something I would not do in the future, is with the first couple of posts, I got into the habit of having them spaced three posts apart on Instagram, so that when you would post the next part, it would slot in diagonally and you just had it diagonally. I did this accidentally at first and I thought I liked the way it looked, so I kept doing it. That just slows it down, and really I just need to be putting content out and not really planning on any kind of design on the Instagram page or whatever. So we need to avoid that in future as well. But all of these things, you know, it's good to get the experience and to really think about what, you know, and realize what works and what doesn't work, and what you sort of need to drill into yourself and all that kind of stuff. Because, like, you know, back in the day, I would try and do pick fed matches, and it would just end up being so close to stop motion. And again, it's the same basic thing. Like, you just need to keep drilling yourself into it that you want to do something in a completely different way. And, you know, that's fine. Now, the Instagram fed is going to continue in some form, but I'm not really sure what. It's possibly going to be in like the NWA format I've talked about before. It's possibly going to be completely non-canon and just kind of like a little side thing. That's unlikely though, because I kind of want to expand the canon of DSW. But the whole point I'm making is that the main animation setup is going to be used for filming proper DSW shows now. We're going to get that ring emptied. We're actually going to move things around. So the pop wall that is currently behind my ring is getting moved to being on these shelves behind me next to my television, next to my Xbox. I've cleared a lot of space there now. So the pop wall is going to go there behind, you know, so I can sit and look at it while I'm meant to be playing video games. And then that space behind there is just going to become the DSW Thunderdome once again, or Disaster Dome once again. And that is until I can free up more space to you know, to have a bigger arena. That being said, I'm not really sure what's going to happen with DSW next, because I wanted to do one show, which is fine, and then after that I wanted to do a really big show. And then but I think the thing is, while I still have this very limited amount of space, I kind of don't really want to do that. I'd rather this was like a big spectacle of a show, the idea I have. So, you know, we'll see where that goes. Who knows how far down the line that will be with how regularly I actually film, but hopefully we're going to get into filming soon. We're going to get a little rearrange. The pop figures are going to go down there, and I think I'm going to start filming videos in that area as well. Just leave it empty, because otherwise, you know, I've gotten into the habit of filming stuff in the ring, and now there is theoretically going to be an animation setup in there. Obviously that's not going to be an option all the time. So yeah, if I leave that space open there to film videos, you'll have the pop wall as like background. And, you know, it should just be pretty interesting to look at. We'll get filming stuff again, and, you know, we'll see where things go. I have a lot of ideas of what I want to do, and it's just a case of now putting them into practice. But I do also need to focus on other projects as well. So it really depends on what happens, what I feel like, and so on and so forth. And if you haven't checked out the Fed so far, you can go and check that out on the Instagram page, in the video description. And like I say, the video version of it will be uploaded to the channel hopefully soon. So yeah, I think that's more or less everything I wanted to say about this. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.